The Great Human Withdrawal. Ambassador Sarah stared at the holographic display showing the Galactic Council chambers. Delegates from 237 species filled the vast amphitheater, their voices creating a cacophony that the universal translators struggled to process. She had been coming to these meetings for 15 years, watching the same arguments, the same posturing, the same complete inability to accomplish anything meaningful. The delegation objects to the proposed trade restrictions on quantum crystals, announced a tall, crystalline being whose voice sounded like breaking glass. The hegemony finds this proposal acceptable, but only if exemptions are made for military applications, countered a reptilian saurian, his forked tongue flicking nervously. Sarah rubbed her temples. This debate had been going on for 3 months. 3 months of circular arguments about trade regulations that would never be enforced anyway. Meanwhile, entire star systems were falling to the void plague, pirates raided shipping lanes with impunity, and refugee camps on the rim worlds grew larger every day. Her personal communicator buzzed. A message from Earth's high command appeared in her peripheral vision. She read it twice, then smiled for the first time in months. Standing up from her seat in the human delegation section, Sarah activated her voice amplifier. The arguments in the chamber gradually died down as delegates noticed her movement. Humans might not be the largest or most powerful species in the galaxy, but they commanded respect. In the 300 years since first contact, humans had established themselves as reliable peacekeepers, innovative problem solvers, and surprisingly effective diplomats. Honorable delegates, Sarah began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. I rise today to make an important announcement on behalf of the Human Federation. The Galactic Council's president, a gas cloud entity called a whisper, rippled with attention. The Council recognizes Ambassador of the Human Federation. Sarah took a deep breath. Effective immediately, the Human Federation is withdrawing from all Galactic Council activities. We are resigning our seats on every committee, ending our participation in all joint initiatives, and ceasing all collaborative projects with Council member species. The chamber erupted. Delegates leaped from their seats, tentacles waving, energy fields fluctuating wildly. The universal translators gave up trying to process the overlapping exclamations of shock, anger, and confusion. The president's form pulsed red, a sign of extreme agitation. Ambassador, surely you misspeak? Humans have been integral to Council operations for centuries. I speak with complete accuracy, Sarah replied calmly. This decision was made unanimously by the Human High Command after extensive deliberation. We have grown tired of endless debates that accomplish nothing while real problems go unsolved. A small, purple-furred delegate from the collective chittered anxiously. But what about the trade agreements, the defense pacts, the research collaborations? All Council-related agreements are hereby terminated, Sarah announced. However, individual species may negotiate bilateral agreements with the Human Federation on a case-by-case basis. We are not withdrawing from galactic civilization entirely. We are simply choosing not to waste any more time with this body. She gestured toward the chaos around them. Look at yourselves. You have spent 3 months debating crystal trade regulations while the void plague consumes the Epsilon sector. You form committees to study committees that were formed to discuss forming other committees. You debate the proper pronunciation of species names while pirates raid civilian transports. And delegate buzzed angrily. Humans have no right to judge the Council. You newcomers understand nothing of galactic governance. Perhaps not, Sarah agreed. But we understand action. While you debated whether relief supplies constituted interference with local sovereignty, human ships delivered food and medicine to 47 refugee camps. While you discussed the proper channels for reporting pirate attacks, human patrol fleets eliminated 3 major raiding groups. She paused, letting her words sink in. We came to this council believing in cooperation and collective action. Instead, we found bureaucracy and endless talk. The Human Federation chooses to pursue a different path. The chamber had grown quieter, with delegates listening intently. Many looked troubled by her words. What path is that? Asked the president. We will act where action is needed, Sarah replied. We will help those who ask for help, defend those who cannot defend themselves, and solve problems instead of forming committees to study them. We will work with any species that shares these goals, regardless of their council membership status. She began gathering her belongings. Our ships are already departing from Council space stations. Our personnel are withdrawing from joint facilities. All ongoing human contributions to Council projects are suspended. We leave you to your debates." As Sarah moved toward the exit, her small team of human diplomats following behind, the chamber erupted in chaos once again. Some delegates shouted accusations of betrayal. Others pleaded for reconsideration. A few, she noticed, looked thoughtful rather than angry. Walking through the corridors of the massive space station that housed the Galactic Council, Sarah felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. No more pointless committees. No more circular debates. No more watching problems grow worse while politicians argued about procedure. Her aide, a young man named, caught up to her. "Ambassador, the communication channels are already lighting up. Every major news network wants a statement. 3 species ambassadors are requesting emergency meetings." "Tell the networks they can have a full briefing in 6 hours," Sarah replied. "As for the ambassadors, they can schedule appointments through normal diplomatic channels. We're not part of the council anymore, but we're still willing to talk." They reached the human embassy section of the station. Staff members were already packing equipment and documents. The withdrawal had been planned in secret for months, with every detail carefully coordinated. Captain, the embassy's security chief, approached with a, "Ambassador, we've received clearance for departure. All personnel and equipment will be transferred to human vessels within 8 hours." "Any incidents?" Sarah asked. A few heated exchanges in the corridors, but nothing serious. Most delegates seemed too shocked to react aggressively. Sarah nodded. The shock would wear off soon enough. Then would come anger, followed by attempts to pressure Earth into rejoining. But the decision was final. Humanity had tried to work within the galactic system for 3 centuries. That experiment was over. Her personal communicator chimed with an encrypted message from Admiral Harrison, head of Human Fleet Command. "Withdrawal proceeding as planned. All human assets departing Council space on schedule. Operation Exodus is go." Sarah smiled at the code name. It was appropriate. Like their ancient ancestors leaving Egypt, humanity was departing a system that had enslaved them to bureaucracy and ineffectiveness. Unlike those ancestors, humans knew exactly where they were going. In her private office, Sarah activated a secure channel to Earth. President Williams appeared on the hologram, looking tired but determined. "How did they take it?" the president asked. "About as expected. Shock, anger, confusion. They genuinely can't understand why we'd walk away from what they see as the pinnacle of galactic civilization." Williams laughed bitterly. "Civilization? They've turned governance into performance art. How many committees does it take to change a light bulb? The answer is 7, plus a subcommittee to determine if light bulbs are culturally appropriate." "What's the latest on the independent operations?" Sarah asked. "Excellent progress. Fleet Admiral Torres eliminated the Crimson Nebula pirates yesterday. The Medical Corps has the Void Plague contained in 3-star systems, with a potential cure in testing. Our engineering teams have restored power to 18 colonies that the Council declared economically unviable for assistance." Sarah felt a surge of pride. This was what humans did best, not talk but act, not debate but solve problems. "There's something else," Williams continued. "We're receiving communication requests from non-council species. Apparently, word is spreading that humans are available for direct cooperation." "Which species?" "The Nomad Fleets, the Free Traders Alliance, several independent colonies. Even a few council members who are discreetly inquiring about bilateral agreements." That was faster than Sarah had expected. Any particular pattern to the inquiries? "They all share common themes. Frustration with council bureaucracy, urgent problems that need immediate attention, requests for the kind of practical assistance humans are known for." Sarah considered this. Perhaps humanity's withdrawal would do more than just free them from council inefficiency. Perhaps it would encourage other species to reconsider their own relationships with the galactic government. A chime announced an incoming priority message. Sarah's aide appeared on a secondary screen. "Ambassador, the Whisper requests an urgent private meeting. They're extremely agitated." "Tell them I'll meet with them in 1 hour in neutral space," Sarah replied. "And make sure the meeting is recorded. I want everyone to hear what the Council leadership really thinks about member species who dare to act independently." As the connection closed, Sarah looked out at the stars visible through her office viewport. Somewhere out there, human ships were already at work solving real problems, helping real people. No committees required, no endless debates, no bureaucratic approval processes. For the first time in years, Sarah was proud to be humanity's representative to the galaxy. Even if that representation now meant telling the galaxy's most powerful institution to solve its own problems. Her communicator buzzed with another message. This one was from her daughter on Earth, a recent graduate of the Diplomatic Corps Academy. "Mom, I just heard the news. Is it true? Are we really free of the Council?" Sarah smiled as she composed her reply. "Yes, sweetheart, we're free. And tomorrow we get to show the galaxy what humans can accomplish when we're not held back by those who prefer talking to doing." Looking around her office one last time, Sarah began packing her personal belongings. This chapter of human galactic relations was ending, but as she watched the stars outside, she couldn't help but feel that the next chapter would be far more interesting. The Human Federation had just served notice to the galaxy that Earth's children were no longer content to be junior partners in someone else's vision of civilization. They were ready to build their own. Outside the station, human ships were already jumping to hyperspace, carrying their crews toward a future where action mattered more than procedure, where results counted more than rhetoric, and where the impossible became merely challenging when humans set their minds to solving problems. The galaxy was about to learn what 3 centuries of frustration had taught humanity. Sometimes, the best way to change a system is to leave it behind and build something better, the ripple effect. 3 weeks after humanity's dramatic withdrawal from the Galactic Council, the universe was learning that humans had been far more important than anyone realized. Fleet Admiral Torres stood on the bridge of the HSS Prometheus, watching her tactical display show the liberation of the mining colony from Saurian corporate raiders. "Final raider ship is disabled, Admiral," reported her tactical officer. "The colonists are sending gratitude messages. They say Council forces would have taken 3 months just to file the proper intervention requests." Torres nodded grimly. This was the 8th such operation in 3 weeks. Pirates, slavers, and corporate raiders had apparently assumed that human withdrawal meant the end of effective law enforcement in the outer sectors. They were learning otherwise. "Signal the colony leadership," Torres ordered. "Tell them we're leaving a patrol squadron to ensure the raiders don't return, and remind them that the Human Federation offers protection agreements to any peaceful settlement that requests one." Her communications officer looked up from his station. "Admiral, we're receiving a priority transmission from the ambassador requests immediate assistance. She says it's urgent." Torres knew well. The small, purple-furred diplomat had always been one of the more reasonable council members. If she was reaching out directly to human forces, the situation must be serious. "Put her through on my private channel," Torres instructed. His image appeared on the screen, her usually immaculate fur disheveled, her large eyes wide with stress. "Admiral Torres, thank the void you answered. We need human assistance desperately." "What's the situation, Ambassador?" "The void plague has reached our outer colonies," said, her voice trembling. 3 entire worlds are infected. The Council's medical authority is still debating whether to classify it as a pandemic or an epidemic. They say the proper procedures require a minimum of 6 weeks for official designation. Torres felt her jaw clench. 6 weeks, your people are dying now." "Exactly, but they insist that proper channels must be followed. Meanwhile, my people suffer and die while bureaucrats argue about classifications." Leaned forward desperately. "I know humanity has withdrawn from Council authority, but I'm begging you, will you help us directly?" "Send me the coordinates and full medical data," Torres replied without hesitation. "I'll have a medical fleet en route within 6 hours." His relief was visible. "Thank you, Admiral. I'm also authorized to discuss a mutual defense agreement between the Collective and the Human Federation." "We'll be happy to discuss that once your people are safe," Torres assured her. "Prometheus out." As the channel closed, Torres turned to her operations officer. "Get me Admiral's medical fleet. Tell her we have a void plague outbreak requiring immediate response." "Yes, ma'am. Should I notify Council authorities?" "Absolutely not. We're not part of the Council anymore, remember. We don't need their permission to save lives." 2 hours later, Tors was reviewing reports from across human space when her aide brought disturbing news. Admiral, we're detecting unusual movement in hegemony space. Large fleet concentrations near the cluster. Tors pulled up the tactical map. The Saurian hegemony was massing significant military forces near one of the galaxy's most important trade routes. Any explanation for the buildup? Officially, they claim it's routine military exercises. Unofficially, our intelligence suggests they're planning to impose new security fees on shipping through the cluster. Tors studied the deployment. The hegemony had always been aggressive, but they'd been held in check by Council regulations and human peacekeeping efforts. With humans no longer bound by Council protocols, and Council enforcement proving ineffective, ambitious species were testing boundaries. What's Council response to the hegemony buildup? They've formed a committee to study the situation, her aide replied with barely disguised disgust. Estimated timeline for a formal response is 4 to 6 months. Tors almost laughed. 4 months? By then the hegemony will control all trade through the cluster. She made a decision. Signal the Free Traders Alliance. Tell them we're prepared to guarantee the safety of the shipping lanes outside of Council authority. Meanwhile, on the Council space station, President Whisper was discovering the true extent of human involvement in galactic operations. The gaseous entity rippled with distress as report after report arrived at his desk. How many critical systems were dependent on human oversight? The president asked his chief of staff, a multi-limbed. More than we realized, sir. Humans managed 40% of our peacekeeping operations, 60% of our disaster response capabilities, and nearly 80% of our actually effective problem-solving initiatives. The president's form darkened. Why wasn't I informed of this dependency? Because it developed gradually, sir. Humans were simply effective. When problems arose, human delegates found solutions. When crises occurred, human ships responded. Over time, other species began relying on human capabilities without formally acknowledging that reliance. A priority alert interrupted their conversation. Sir, announced the communications officer, we've just received word that they have signed a direct defense agreement with the Human Federation. They're withdrawing their council membership. The president's gaseous form swirled violently. That's impossible. Council membership is permanent. Apparently not, sir. Cite Article 847 of the Council Charter, which allows withdrawal under extraordinary circumstances. They claim the Council's failure to respond to the Void Plague emergency constitutes abandonment of member species. Before the president could respond, another alert arrived. Sir, the Free Traders Alliance has just announced they're accepting human protection for their shipping operations. They're bypassing Council authority entirely. The Chief of Staff's multiple arms gestured helplessly. Sir, this is a cascade failure. If other species see the and Free Traders succeeding outside Council oversight. The prediction proved accurate within hours. The Nomad Fleets, a loose confederation of wandering species, announced they were seeking direct agreements with humans for protection and supply services. 3 independent colonies in the Rim territories followed suit. By the end of the day, 17 different groups had either withdrawn from the Council or announced their intention to pursue direct relationships with humanity. On Earth, President Williams was receiving similar reports with mixed feelings. The human withdrawal was succeeding beyond their most optimistic projections, but the rapid collapse of galactic order was concerning. Are we prepared for this level of responsibility? Williams asked his cabinet during an emergency session. Secretary of Defense nodded. Our military capabilities are extensive, and we've been planning for expanded operations. The real question is political. Do we want to become the galaxy's facto peacekeeping force? We may not have a choice, replied Secretary of State, Sarah's mother and a veteran diplomat. Nature abhors a vacuum, and we've created a significant power vacuum by withdrawing from the Council. Either we fill it, or someone with less benevolent intentions will. President Williams considered the options. What's our current operational status? Admiral Harrison, attending via hologram from Fleet Command, provided the summary. We have medical fleets en route to 3 void plague outbreaks, patrol squadrons protecting 7 shipping routes, and peacekeeping forces responding to 4 separate conflicts. All operations are proceeding successfully. Casualties? Minimal, Our forces are well-equipped and motivated. More importantly, we're achieving objectives that Council forces had failed to accomplish in years. Williams made his decision. Continue all operations, but I want clear protocols established. We're not the Council's replacement. We're partners with any species that shares our values of action over bureaucracy, results over rhetoric. Back in space, Admiral Torres was seeing the wisdom of this approach. Her tactical display showed human ships operating throughout the galaxy, but they weren't imposing solutions. They were responding to requests, providing assistance to those who asked, and protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. A message arrived from the Whisper President, requesting an urgent meeting with senior human leadership. Torres forwarded it to Earth with a recommendation. Let the Council leadership come to them. Admiral, her communications officer announced, we're receiving a transmission from an unexpected source. The Empire is requesting direct negotiations with the Human Federation. Torres was surprised. The Crystalline were among the Council's most traditional members, strongly committed to established procedures and protocols. Are you certain about this? Confirmed, ma'am. Ambassador Quartz himself is requesting a meeting. He says the Empire has reconsidered the value of efficient governance. Torres smiled. They controlled some of the galaxy's most advanced technology. Their decision to approach humans directly would send shockwaves through the Council. Schedule the meeting, she instructed, and send a message to Earth. Tell them the dominoes are falling faster than we anticipated. As if to prove her point, another alert arrived. Despite their earlier hostile reaction to human withdrawal, were requesting assistance with a massive swarm plague threatening their agricultural worlds. The Council's Agricultural Authority had been debating the appropriate response for 2 months. Torres authorized immediate deployment of human pest control specialists and agricultural ships. Problems that had festered for months under Council bureaucracy were being solved in days by direct human action. But the most significant development came from an unexpected source. A group of younger Council delegates, led by a charismatic Aquarian named Flo, issued a public statement calling for fundamental reform of galactic governance. The human withdrawal has exposed critical flaws in our system, Flo declared in a broadcast that reached billions across the galaxy. We spend more time debating process than solving problems. We prioritize procedure over people. The humans have shown us a better way. The statement called for streamlined decision-making, reduced bureaucracy, and results-based governance. Within hours, delegates from 47 species had added their support to the reform movement. President Whisper's response was swift and predictable. These delegates have been influenced by human propaganda, the gaseous leader announced. They fail to understand the careful balance and thoughtful consideration that true governance requires. The statement backfired spectacularly. Video of Whisper's response, contrasted with footage of human ships delivering aid to plague victims, protecting trade routes, and solving practical problems, went viral across the galactic communication networks. Admiral Torres watched the political developments with professional interest, but her focus remained operational. Human forces were now protecting 15 star systems, supporting 37 different species, and maintaining peace in regions where the Council had failed for decades. Status report on all operations, she requested from her Chief of Staff. All green, Admiral. No significant casualties, all objectives being met or exceeded. Resource utilization is well within sustainable parameters. Torres nodded. Humans had spent 3 centuries learning how to operate within galactic civilization. Now they were demonstrating how to operate beyond it, and the results spoke for themselves. Her contemplation was interrupted by an urgent message from Earth's President Williams himself. Admiral Torres, I need you to prepare for a significant expansion of operations. We've just received formal requests for human protection and partnership from the entire Outer Rim Alliance. That's 47 star systems and 12 species. Torres felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. Humanity was no longer just withdrawing from galactic politics. They were inadvertently creating an alternative to it. Understood, Mr. President. We'll be ready. As she closed the channel, Torres looked out at the stars and wondered what they had started. The human withdrawal from Council politics was becoming something much larger, a demonstration that there was a better way to organize galactic civilization. Whether the universe was ready for that lesson remained to be seen. The New Order. 2 months had passed since humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, and the universe was dividing into two distinct camps. President Williams stood in the war room of Earth's command center, studying a galactic map that told the story better than any report could. Green markers showed human-allied territories, now encompassing nearly a third of known space. Red markers indicated Council loyalists, concentrated around the old core worlds. Yellow markers showed neutral or undecided regions, though fewer of those remained each day. "Give me the latest numbers, General," Williams requested. General stepped forward with his. 63 species have signed direct cooperation agreements with the Human Federation. 41 have withdrawn from the Council entirely. The Outer Rim Alliance has formally requested human leadership in their Security Council. Williams studied the strategic implications, and Council response. Increasingly desperate. They've imposed economic sanctions on human-allied species, declared our operations illegal interventions, and threatened military action against what they call pirate activities. Williams almost laughed. Pirate activities were the only force in the galaxy actually fighting real pirates. The irony was stark. While the Council debated the legal definition of piracy, human fleets had eliminated 17 major raiding groups in the past month alone. Shipping losses in human-protected space had dropped to nearly zero, while Council territories saw increasing lawlessness. "What about the reform movement inside the Council?" Williams asked. Secretary answered this one. "Growing stronger daily. Delegate Flow's coalition now includes representatives from 94 species. They're demanding immediate implementation of what they call human-style governance. Which is direct action instead of endless committees, results-based decision-making instead of process-based bureaucracy, emergency response measured in hours instead of months." Williams nodded. The reform movement was perhaps the most interesting development. Humans hadn't just withdrawn from the galactic system, they'd inadvertently created a template for improving it. An aide approached with an urgent message. "Mr. President, Admiral Torres is requesting immediate contact. She says it's about the hegemony situation." Williams activated the communication system. Admiral Torres appeared on the main screen, the bridge of her flagship visible behind her. "Mr. President, the Saurian hegemony has just launched what they're calling Operation Restoration. They're moving to occupy the cluster by force, claiming Council authority has collapsed." Williams felt his stomach tighten. The hegemony controlled one of the galaxy's most powerful military forces. If they were moving openly against civilian populations, the situation had escalated beyond politics. What's their justification? They claim they're restoring order in regions where human interference has created chaos. They're painting us as galactic who undermined legitimate government. And the reality? Tor's expression was grim. "They're using our withdrawal as cover for territorial expansion. Intelligence suggests this is just the first phase of a much larger campaign." Williams considered the options. Direct military confrontation with the hegemony would mean war, something humanity had tried to avoid. But allowing aggressive expansion would mean abandoning the principles that had motivated their withdrawal in the first place. "What are our capabilities if this escalates?" "We can match their fleet strength, but barely. The real question is whether our allies will stand with us. Most of our partner species have limited military assets." Before Williams could respond, another alert chimed. Secretary looked up from her own communication station. "Mr. President, I'm receiving an emergency transmission from the Free Traders Alliance. They're reporting hegemony attacks on 3 commercial convoys in neutral space." The room fell silent. Attacking neutral shipping was a clear act of war under any interpretation of galactic law. "Response time to the convoy locations," Williams asked Torres. 4 hours for the nearest patrol squadron. "But sir, this feels like a trap. The hegemony is trying to force us into a military response so they can claim we're the aggressors." Williams made his decision with the speed that had become characteristic of human governance. "Send the patrol squadrons, protect the convoys. But Admiral, I want absolutely clear rules of engagement. We defend, we don't attack first." Understood, sir. As Tor's image disappeared, Williams turned to his cabinet. This changes everything. We're no longer just withdrawing from politics. We're potentially facing a galactic war. The next few hours proved critical. Human patrol squadrons arrived at the convoy locations to find hegemony warships systematically destroying civilian vessels. When the human commander demanded the attacks cease, the Saurian response was to open fire. The brief engagement was decisive. Human ships, built for protection rather than conquest, proved devastatingly effective against hegemony raiders designed for intimidation. 3 Saurian vessels were disabled with minimal damage to the human escorts. But the political impact was enormous. Within minutes of the engagement, the galactic communication networks were flooded with footage of the battle. The images showed hegemony forces attacking defenseless traders, then human ships arriving to protect the innocent. The Council's response was swift and catastrophically tone-deaf. President Whisper issued a statement condemning human aggression against a Council member species and demanding immediate withdrawal of all illegal human military forces. The statement made no mention of the Saurian attacks on civilians. It ignored the fact that humans had responded to protect neutral shipping. It treated the victims and their protectors as equally culpable with their attackers. The reaction across the galaxy was immediate and overwhelmingly negative. Species after species issued statements supporting human intervention. Even some Council loyalists began questioning whether the galactic government had lost all moral authority. The most significant response came from an unexpected source. The Empire, one of the Council's founding members, issued a formal statement withdrawing their support for Council leadership. We cannot stand with a government that condemns those who protect the innocent while excusing those who prey upon them, announced Ambassador Quartz in a broadcast that reached every civilized world in the galaxy. Within 24 hours, the withdrawal had triggered an avalanche. 12 more major species announced their intention to leave the Council. The reform movement inside the Council exploded into open rebellion, with nearly half of all delegates demanding immediate leadership changes. But the most important development was happening in space itself. Species across the galaxy were requesting direct human protection, not just from pirates or natural disasters, but from other Council members who were using the chaos to settle old scores or grab territory. Admiral Tors found herself coordinating not just peacekeeping operations, but a complete restructuring of galactic security. Her command center had become the de facto coordination point for law enforcement across dozens of star systems. "Status report," she requested from her operations officer. "We now have active protection agreements with 71 species, security partnerships with 43 independent colonies, and coordination protocols with 6 major alliance networks. Our forces are stretched thin, but holding." Tors nodded. They were operating far beyond their original capacity, but somehow managing to maintain effectiveness. Part of it was technology. Human ships were simply better designed for protection duties. Part of it was training. Human crews were exceptionally skilled at rapid response operations. But mostly, Tors realized it was philosophy. Human forces acted to solve problems, not to control territory. They protected rather than conquered, mediated rather than imposed. Species trusted them because they had no hidden agenda beyond maintaining peace. Her contemplation was interrupted by an urgent communication from Earth. President Williams appeared on her screen, looking tired but determined. "Admiral, I need to brief you on a new development. We've just received a formal delegation from the Council reform movement. They're requesting human assistance in restructuring galactic governance." Tors was surprised. "They want us to return to the Council." "No, quite the opposite. They want to create an entirely new system based on human operational principles. They're calling it the Galactic Cooperation Initiative." "And our response?" Williams paused before answering. "We're considering it, but Admiral, this would mean taking on responsibility for galactic government, not just security operations. Are we ready for that?" Tors looked at her tactical display, showing human forces successfully maintaining peace across a third of the galaxy. "Mr. President, I think we've already taken on that responsibility. The question is whether we're going to admit it." The conversation was interrupted by another alert. The communications officer announced an incoming priority transmission from the Hegemony High Command. Admiral, they're requesting direct negotiations. They say they want to discuss mutual recognition of spheres of influence. Tors understood immediately. The Hegemony had overplayed their hand. Their attacks on civilian shipping had cost them political support, while human intervention had demonstrated superior military capability. Now they wanted to negotiate from a position of weakness, hoping to salvage something from their failed power grab. "Tell them we'll consider negotiations," Tors replied, "but only after they withdraw from all occupied territories and pay reparations to the shipping companies they attacked." The demands were deliberately harsh, designed to demonstrate that aggression would not be rewarded. But Tors was surprised when the Hegemony accepted them within hours. The speed of their capitulation revealed something important about the changing galactic balance of power. The old system had been based on threat and intimidation. The new system emerging around human leadership was based on protection and cooperation. Species trusted humans not because they feared human retaliation, but because they believed human promises. When humans offered protection, they delivered it. When they proposed solutions, they worked. When they made commitments, they kept them. This trust was becoming humanity's greatest strategic asset. As word spread of human effectiveness, more species began questioning why they needed the Council at all. Why accept bureaucratic delays when humans could provide immediate assistance? Why tolerate political posturing when humans offered practical solutions? The culmination came 3 weeks later, when representatives from 127 species gathered on the neutral world of Haven Station to formally establish the Galactic Cooperation Initiative. Unlike the Council's elaborate hierarchy and complex procedures, the GCI was built around simple principles: direct response to crises, results-based governance, and mutual assistance among member species. Humans were invited to serve as the coordinating authority, not as rulers but as facilitators. Their role was to organize responses to problems, coordinate resource sharing, and maintain the peace that made cooperation possible. President Williams addressed the assembly via hologram, his words broadcast to billions across the galaxy. 3 months ago, humanity from galactic politics because we were tired of watching problems grow worse while bureaucrats argued about procedure. Today, we're honored to help build something better. The Galactic Cooperation Initiative represents what we learned during our withdrawal, that effective governance requires action, not endless debate, that helping others helps everyone, that the universe is better when we work together instead of against each other. He paused, looking out at the diverse assembly of species representatives. "We offer our experience, our capabilities, and our commitment to making this new system work. But understand that we're not replacing one hierarchy with another. The GCI succeeds when every member species contributes according to their abilities and benefits according to their needs." The response was unprecedented. Species after species, the GCI charter, formally withdrawing from the old council system. Within a week, the Galactic Council was reduced to a rump organization representing fewer than 30 species, mostly those too committed to the old system to admit its failure. Admiral Tors, now designated as the first coordinator of galactic security, stood on the bridge of her flagship and watched the transformation of the galaxy. Human withdrawal from politics had become human leadership of a new kind of politics, one based on effectiveness rather than procedure, cooperation rather than control. Looking at her tactical display, now showing green markers across most of known space, Tors realized they had accomplished something remarkable. They hadn't just withdrawn from a failed system. They had demonstrated that there was a better way to organize galactic civilization. And the universe had chosen to follow their example.